Hello and welcome everybody back to the Dumbass class with me, Dyslexic Gamer. Sorry for the noise. And we're back with Season 2 of our Warhammer Fantasy tabletop RPG, Mordheim, City of the Damned. Now, in the last episode, our valiant warriors of the unknown warband, or was it the nameless warband? I think we decided on the nameless for now.
Wasn't it the warband of the name? I don't know.
It was something that was nameless.
We never really agreed on that, let's be honest.
Nameless or unnamed?
It's still a placeholder name.
It is still a placeholder.
I bet that's what's written on the documents.
Yes,
It's a placeholder.
placeholder. Our warband is called placeholder.
Insert name here.
But the warband without a name aided the city of Siegfriedhof, town of Siegfriedhof, and aided them massively. They did. They were able to destroy the vampire bandit camp, acquire a cannon from said camp, and then bring that cannon to bear on the necromancers themselves, utterly destroying them and routing the enemy.
Rip necromancy.
We are back on that day. A few hours have passed. The wounded have been brought in, and their wounds are being treated. Brander has already given his speech to the people of Siegfriedhof, declaring their victory and liberation from the vampire scum that has tainted their lands. And he mentions the Bloody Rain and the nameless warband. The Bloody Rain are nowhere to be seen, but by all means, your warband is permitted, almost expected to be there. For those of you who do gather, the entire town begin cheering. It's a little odd because they don't have a name to cheer. You feel that the nameless warband may soon become the actual name of your warband, but we'll have to see.
We just kind of told him, yeah, we'll earn our name and we'll let the people know. And just you're the nameless warband now. We're earning that name.
I mean, if it works, it works.
The celebrations go on long into the night. Drinks flow freely, food is brought out, and it is almost as if a festival has taken hold of Siegfriedhof. And it does not release its hold for, I believe I said 4 days. Hang on, 5 days. In that 5 days, you experience many things. You see, for those of you who are not human, you may never have seen humans go quite as mental as they are right now. The taste of freedom and liberation and the ominous aura or omen that was surrounding Siegfriedhof has gone. There's no more darkness. It feels, you drink and get involved in the madness, and you hardly recognise the dark, dingy alleys of the outskirts of town that you now walk through freely, drunk, happy, celebrating with everyone there. But soon enough the town returns to its normality, the madness too quickly coming to an end. You note that many of the traders stay on for a while longer. They seem to want to capture the good vibe that is still going through Siegfriedhof. You are all in the Wolf's Head Inn, enjoying perhaps a late breakfast. For some of you, the merrymaking lasted well into the early hours. For others, perhaps you stopped sooner. But you were given a full spread breakfast. There are a large number of people, all with hangovers, in the Wolf's Head Inn this morning. Late morning, early afternoon. when a familiar face enters the bar. You see Branda enter the bar. He walks over to your normal table. Actually, you need to be gone. You don't live here anymore.
I should probably be by the table.
It's good morning, everyone. You would immediately note that Brand has mighty bags under his eyes. It appears as if he too was enjoying the celebrations. I wanted to personally come by and thank you after everything had calmed down a little. So the truth of the matter is that we're not really gonna need the mercenaries anymore. Y'all can stick around, and I'm sure we'll have the odd job here or there. But I believe Hagrid said you were planning something, or we're gonna start, or. But
Is this the case of us doing our job a little too well?
No. Well, if you hadn't done your job, then you wouldn't have anyone to pay you for working. So he kind of like raises his arms, and I'm sure if we need you, then we'll be only more than happy to pass work your way. It's just how it is once a battle's fought. Unless something happens straight after, which we've had no reports about. No greenskin hordes coming, no beastman migrations. So it appears you will be on your own until the next calamity comes. But I wanted to ensure that you knew how much Siegfried Half appreciated the help. We've calculated how much was at the bandit camp. Each of you, he gives you a coin. This is just a crappy little copper coin with the stamp of the Raven Guard on it. Come to my office, or just go to the outpost and hand this in. They know how much they need to give you, but I didn't feel comfortable slamming down big old piles of gold onto the table. You've all been awarded 500 gold crowns for your service to all of us.
Hey, that's definitely the biggest payout I had. I guess you're gonna want these back, and I show him and I present my symbol of the raven, which he gave.
Oh no! You hold on to that. You still have Siegfried Half's fangs, and in fact, all of Sterling. If you need to do any trading, by all means, you'll carry on with the discount. No taxes. Handling fees, again, it's merchant by merchant. If they say that they're from Ostergard, for example, can't be helped. But most merchant companies will give you a discount on behalf of Sterling, so you hold on to them.
Thanks, Brander. Sir, Brander, is it?
Technically it is, but it's never. We're bumpkins out here. It doesn't really sit right with me. I spend too long sat behind a desk to be known as Sir Brander. He gives you he gives you a look of just like a guy who would have just been one of the lads had he not been born into a noble house and have some duty about him.
He's one of those.
I also have to inform you that we won't be paying for your accommodation anymore, but I'm sure with your newfound wealth and with everything, you won't need to leave Siegfried Half for need of coin anytime soon. And he kind of gives you a wave. He gives the members of the Bloody Rain a nod. But he doesn't seem to give them a coin. Perhaps they've already had a coin's worth, or...
They've had to pay for their murdered horses?
No, unfortunately not.
Ah, damn. Or they had it the first day when they didn't show up and then spent all of it getting drunk? Sounds like at least one of them.
They may have caused some damage in town. You might have
The
heard...
trolls.
You might have heard rumours about a couple of tests of strength and a few fights and brawls, and maybe
And
one
Hagrid
house burnt
suddenly-
down, and you know there.
Hagrid suddenly received a lot more orders for doors.
Well, the problem is it was a celebration everywhere in Siegfriedhof, so like Damatus wasn't contained to one area.
Yeah. This like entire streets don't have doors anymore.
Kind of, you know.
The doors exploded because he's strong enough to do what we did with what Azareth did with a mug
It's
with his bare hands.
fine.
So, as you sit and enjoy your breakfast and ponder what you'll do with your newfound wealth, you do note that there are a couple of dwarves in the establishment. In fact, there's Hagrid and a couple of the Wilmhelmer. You notice Dimzid.
I'm definitely looking for Dimzid.
He gives you a curtly wave. I think he's on the... He's there somewhere. I think he's got... There he is. He's sat at the top with the Raven
The only
Guard.
one with the rifle.
Yes, funnily enough. They spread out, and you'd notice that Hagrid, after a barmaid comes and takes his order, he comes over to all of you, slapping Azureth on the side as he comes over. Aye, Azureth, aye, that was some... Again, that was bringing that cannon. Whose idea was that? It was just perfect timing. Perfect timing. I don't think we would have... well, the walls definitely wouldn't have held out for... if that thing was firing against them. He still seems quite drunk. You're not sure if he's been to sleep yet?
Yeah.
Of course, he's shit-faced.
Aye, this celebration has been a lot better than the Keg's End that the Hungy did. It's been a wonderful time, and he kind of jingles his pocket a bit. Apparently it's been a good money earner with Damatus on the rampage, but shh, don't tell anyone I said that. They think we had a deal going on. But I wanted to say to you all, we've been doing some talking and some drinking and some calculating. A bit more drinking and some more talking, and and we think we're coming close to a decision about the he makes a gesture with his hands of like people walking, like about the bloody that expedition. He slaps his side. Aye, the expedition. We've got some ideas that we think we've come to a decision.
Expedition? What's this about an expedition?
Hey, the dwarves expedition. I remember. Why is Scissor already shit-faced?
It's morning-ish, so you either woke up drunk and you started drinking again.
Already. That's why I said already.
Gabriel's just tired for having played music for 3 days straight.
Or he
And
hasn't
on the
he hasn't
rooftop.
slept. That's the other
Yeah,
one.
he's just not passed out yet.
I am not regular drunk, I am sleep drunk.
You've not yet ascended to divine alcoholism.
This is more lack of sleep, sensation of being drunk because you're not capable of doing anything.
Aye, well, we've come to a decision, and so we're gonna sober up a bit. Why don't you all come over tomorrow, and we can take you through the plan, and we can go through the kind of resources and the personnel and
Just give me like half an hour.
Sounds good. Thunk.
Aye, take a day to recover. As if that's what we're gonna do.
Dims it when none of us are stinking drunk.
Gabriel's not drunk.
You
Gabriel's probably not touched much alcohol.
I've had one fucking drink. I just
It
had
was
one.
bugs, man, wasn't it?
No.
Aye, Lady Wilhelma. Good morning to you.
Drop the lady bit.
Can I just continue sleeping for a bit? I'm still tired.
Azureth places his head down onto the table. There's the smell of food, and just kind of makes him just just sleep longer. Of course you can. If you want to struggle to your bed upstairs, you can do that as well. Aye, but I've got to keep up my charming demeanour now, wouldn't I, Miss Wilhelma? He kind of gives you a little bow. Now, how can I be of service to you?
The thing you did with the cannon, I want to know. I want you to teach me engineering. I think.
Oh, I've taken an interest. By all means, it would be an honour. He kind of goes. He has like a little rosy tint come to his cheeks. But of course, whenever you'd like to do lessons, and I can teach you the finer arts of black powder.
I would be happy to start whenever I'm not feeling like I'm about to fall over.
Oh, well, Lady Wilhelma, you can always fall over on me and I'll catch you. That's perfectly fine. But
Wouldn't you like that?
But I believe Hagrid said that we were all to have a meeting about the expedition tomorrow. So, we can begin a basic lesson then, once you've had some time to get over the celebrations that have been going on. Dimsit doesn't actually seem... He doesn't seem hungover. His speech is definitely not slurred, or... He may have stopped drinking the day before.
Actually, I probably should have just rolled consume alcohol to see how shit-faced I was.
What as if you drank a Bugman's?
I mean, it's entirely up to your characters how, like, this is like, for medieval terms, it's like a rock festival going off.
It's celebration. Who cares about staying sober? That's counterproductive.
Exactly.
Gabrielle's got to stay sober because one of her acts is acrobatics, and I'm pretty sure roof acrobatics drunk is a method for suicide.
I mean, you would get pretty nice tips, is all I'm saying.
Acrobatics for the day, music for the night, music on the roof if some drunk guys get us stuck up there for a few hours.
Was there anything that you would like to do on your essentially your day off? The stalls and shops and merchants have all begun groggily bringing out their wares today, whereas before everywhere was kind of shut except from the bare essentials that you needed. But there was so much food and drink being sold and being eaten and drunk that get your cloth another day.
Just testing the thing as an character aside, see if I can do it to represent my extra damage reduction with the amulet. Yeah, it doesn't automatically give me an agility penalty.
Why would it give you an agility penalty?
Because rather than have leather clicked everywhere, I've clicked for mail. And then I'm just going to subtract the 1 armor if I ever lose my armor.
It
Why?
should automatically subtract the agility.
There's a button at the bottom which says wearing, and I've not clicked that. If you've just clicked like mail,
Yeah,
it doesn't do it.
no, you're meant to click the. You're meant to
wearing
click the
medium or
wearing.
heavy.
Yeah, I'm wearing regular leather, but I've clicked all the mail buttons. I was checking if you've got them all clicked, it doesn't take into account the bottom button anyway.
No, you have to specifically take that one option on the bottom.
Yeah, and I wouldn't use that amulet as damage resist like that, because essentially once pen starts coming into it, you don't want to accidentally go, shit, I lose 2 pen. That weapon's got 2 pen, I lose. That's a magic item. It doesn't get affected by pen, so you always have that.
Okay, it's just it was easier for memorizing. Because otherwise I've got to keep checking back on that page.
I'm just seeing if so what you can do is go onto talents, put in copper amulet, and then +1 soak, and it'll be there, straight under talents, or +1 soak.
Done that.
Yes. Are there any NPCs? Would there be anyone that you would want to talk to at this moment in time? Except from the dwarves. You'll speak to them tomorrow.
I guess I visit the meerkats in human form to buy my pouch, my sling bag, and then I pray at my shrine for 2 hours and offer up 100 gold.
If you're trying to get your book, that will happen when you set off. Essentially, you can count yourself as having it. You'll just acquire it once you set off.
Yeah.
Once Renaud has a chance to turn his ire upon you.
And he has a chance to completely break a wagon without breaking it.
You would notice about lunchtime, maybe a little bit after lunchtime, Bill and Ted return. Ted appears quite happy. He's still bold at this moment in time. He sits down and he pulls out a small flask and he drinks it. And he sits there for a while. You then see Bill come in shortly behind Ted. He doesn't sit right next to Ted, which is a little bit unusual. He sits on a different table further away. He's got a long chain, and he appears to have a dog attached by a collar. It is a mangy, stinking thing with patchy fur, and it's just the muttiest, ugliest dog you've ever seen. But he
so
looks he
cute.
looks really proud, and he walks in with this thing, and it just, you all sit there, especially the elves, are just like, what smells of shit? And you look round and there's just this mangy mutt just staring straight at you. Its breath just pulls over, and it just makes you like, it's like nails on chalk on blackboards, like, oh fuck.
I'm kind of just like, my hand goes to my axe and I'm like, wait, whose is this?
It's Ted or Bill or both.
Okay, please get out now, guys.
It's got nothing to do with me. I told him he couldn't find a. Look, God, I told you, he'll be fine, won't you, boy? There's a rancid egg smell that just starts to just develop the room.
No.
Please take it the fuck outside before I smash my axe into its head.
Okay. I'll leave him by the wagon for now. Come on, boy.
Don't let him shit in the
Bill?
wagon.
Bill, for the love of Aisha, you and the dog go take a bath right now and stay there for at least 3 hours and don't come back until you.
Miss Alicia, it doesn't matter. He's already washed the bloody thing twice, and it still stinks. I told you.
Is it a magical stank?
No. It's just a really smelly dog.
That's what I asked in character.
Bill, please don't do it again and don't come back until you're smelling at least of roses.
But how do I don't. He leaves scratching his head like, what?
Ted, do you know what soap is?
Well, yeah, I washed him with soap. He's just a smelly dog. He looks up with like patchy fur and just like this.
Keep in mind my senses are like 5 times more acute as yours.
Ted,
That stench is unbearable. Take it out.
I'm gonna go find Beliarius and I'm gonna see if he has any type of magical soap, but God, that stank is worse than when you two fought.
You would notice that Ted goes quite red, whereas Bill's like, I don't fart like that. That's Ted. He's the smelly one. And then you just hear Ted. Oh, not anymore. Not anymore. He holds up a little vial.
I don't care. Have this discussion outside, please. Now. Go.
The homely looking dog just sits down and tries to give you these puppy dog eyes, but it breathes in your direction, Azurif, and you're just like, fuck no, just out.
I take my shield from my back and I'm just like, I just slam it onto the ground in front of the dog.
Yeah.
Out.
Ted turns around with his. Bill turns around with his dog, and he.
Meanwhile,
he
light
leaves.
snores are coming from where Gabrielle sat.
Okay, I'm not gonna be able to sleep for another day now. I might as well have something to eat. Give me something that smells like good roasted meat so I can get that smell out of my nose.
You look on the table and you see roasted sausage. Roasted sausages, roasted meats, cold eggs. It's all cold now. The bartender says he tells you can reheat it if you want it hot.
Please do.
A plate disappears and then a waitress brings in another plate. You're not sure if it's the same plate, but all the meat's warm now. There are a lot of people eating breakfasts, and meats seem to be on special today.
I just start chewing it away and like, at least it's better. They're good men, but
They're not as smart as we are.
by a Syrian, they're fucking idiots.
At least they don't complain how heavy.
Say that again, I'll smack you with however his armor is.
Yeah.
I'm not in the mood. And I just, I kind of clench my fist in my gauntleted arm and I'm like, try me.
An arm wrestle it is then.
I turn back to my food, just like,
I win by default.
at that, I actually stop eating, stand up, make sure my shield's on my arm, and just walk towards her.
Towards who?
Say something. Wilhelma. Why don't you just say?
I mean, he just backed out from an arm wrestle, so you know.
Alright, fuck it. Okay. I sit in front of her. Let's do this then.
An arm wrestle it is.
Would you two please behave? We're still in a crowded bar.
It
They
is
shall
late.
behave
It's
after.
just an arm wrestle. It's not like we're gonna murder each other or anything.
And otherwise, you can always fix her arm after we're done.
It is afternoon. Like
That's some brave talk, yo.
I just stare you dead in the eye. I do not look amused at all.
it is late. It is like afternoon. People are having lunch now. Morning has passed, but there are still a lot of people in the bar. Many of them with hangovers, but seeing this this going on, a lot of them have taken an interest in coming round. You hear a few people whispering about anyone, 5 silver on the 5 silver on the elf. I'll bet 5 silver on the woman. I reckon she can take him. You also notice there are a couple of Raven Guard knights in there having something to eat. They're watching, but not really. Like, they're not stopping anything. So if you want,
I just have my elbow on the table, in front of me, like, bring it.
okay, an opposed strength test then.
Okay, I am re-rolling that.
Great use of fortune. It's a good thing we're getting 6 months worth.
Honestly, I would have fortunate if I failed.
We go to the table.
Oh, brilliant.
I think Wilhelma looked so strong that she made Zura's arm go through the table.
No,
Without even touching it.
You both sit down, and as
I fall asleep in the middle of the match.
as you both put your elbows on the table, and you begin to brace, you move your shoulders in and prepare to put all your might into this wrestling match. Miss Wilhelma, you strike down hard because you've noticed that Azurif has his elbow in a wet patch, which he hasn't noticed, having his armoured van brace on, and with ease, as his elbow slips from underneath the table, you slam it down.
If my elbow slips, I think I'll notice I'm like...
You're hungover as well, so you're a little bit slower-witted.
I'm not so much hungover as I've just had too little sleep. And this is very easy to notice.
I was just thinking, when you
if
become
you
hungover
el-
and sleep,
if
Not when 100 comes up. Not when 100 comes up.
Okay, then somebody else that bet on me probably notices, because if your elbow slips away during arm wrestling, that's not something that normally happens.
You would notice that there's a few people grumbling about the bet, and there's a few people who have clearly bet on Miss Wilhelma, going, well, that's the way it goes, my friend. You should have looked for who had a bit more spring in their step. Miss Wilhelma, you have won this round. But, Azuraf, no one said it had to be best out of one.
Wait. Alright, round 2.
This is round 2.
And this time I look for wet patches.
So you get a tape.
I don't think you're winning.
You get a cloth thrown over to you by the bartender, who wipes up the spillage, and you place your arm down again. The crowd are all, see, look round. Best 2 out of 3. Best 2 out of 3. Okay, all right, and Ian up.
This is where all my D&D luck went to.
But
Then it's like, fuck, shit, this armor works against me if I'm in unfavorable position. I'm like,
unfortunately, Azuraf, Miss Wilhelma must have spent a lot of time while she was in the Marines having to prove herself to the other alpha males. So she's no stranger to these types of competition, and her form is just perfect. You even watch yourself as your arm comes down going, fuck, she should do this in competition, trying to fight, but unable to give.
Azura,
yes, I know I shouldn't do this when I haven't slept enough, I know.
actually, I was going to say you should stop embarrassing yourself.
He should, shouldn't he?
It's quite clear.
I just stare, just a death glare at Wilhelma.
The set just has a small smirk, looking like, look at these two.
Hey, Elfie, don't want to get so upset when you're betting on things. It's not your fault you were beat by a fine lady. Dismond gives you a little nudge, Miss Wilhelma.
See, the gentleman agrees.
I haven't slept well. My arm still hurts from that bloody fucking sword that was stabbed through it.
Good point. You probably should have had minuses after having your arm, like, obliterated not too long ago, but yeah.
No, this is just me saying as a character. And they fucking bring that dog in. And the rest of my team can't even give me a little bit of rest and respect.
Look, if you're not hung up on it, we can do a rematch later.
The Sarah is just gonna wave the barmaid and ask her for her to bring first water for Azuraf and Wilhelma, and then a couple of drinks for the both of them. Just you are far too serious for this hour of the morning, Azuraf. Cheer up, would you?
I'm gonna eat
It's
my
morning.
food, I'm gonna go back to bed.
Yeah.
Out of my way. I just push whoever's standing in my way just out of the way. I go back to my seat at the bar, eat my food, and then just go to bed back.
Okay, your food was left on the table that you guys always sit at, so you essentially turn round. Fortunately, you don't need to barge past anyone. You'd be able to eat your food, and then you'd have a clear road to go up to bed.
Wilhelma, maybe next time let him win once.
Then where's the fun in that? Look, if I let him win, then it would be unhonorable.
Just make it 3 out of 2 and let him win once and you'll win the rest. Just so his elvish and pride won't be too hurt.
This year, I don't really care for his pride.
Technically, I don't think Azuraf even has elven pride. He probably has something more along the lines of a dwarfish pride. I don't know. He's a
Look,
weird
he
one.
just wishes he could grow a beard like them.
This arrow just giggle a little bit while she's still looking at her notes.
Is this while I'm still downstairs?
Luciara would have waited for you to go up, so.
Alright. Because this is an out of character warning, basically. Azur for a while is going to be in the mood where if you piss him off too much, he's not even going to bother demanding you apologize. No, he's just going to walk over and with his gauntlet punch you in the face.
One of those hangovers. I know them well.
Which is exactly why Luciara is doing this while you just went to bed, so.
Quiet down over there, I'm trying to sleep.
As Miss Gabrielle mumbles from her folded arms on the table.
I don't think she's folded her arms. It's like there's the food, and the food's just the side of where her head is. She's not even like had the energy to move her arms.
So as the day continues, the bar stays fairly mellow after the brief bit of energy injected during the arm wrestling match. It quietens down again pretty rapidly as the hangovers seem to kick in yet again, and the day goes on. If there's nothing that anyone would like to do today, you can enjoy a quiet meal later on, and then perhaps a well-deserved bath, and then maybe an early night.
Gotta love the bath.
As you wake up the next day, you are woken by Gottfried, the tavern owner. He wakes you up around 8 o'clock, for those of you who wouldn't already be up at that time, knocking at your door. I'm very sorry about this, but well, it's the dwarves. You see, they're downstairs asking for you, and
Yes, dwarves. Thank you.
they've paid for breakfast, so it'll be down there when you get up. I don't know what happened to his accent. It was meant to be Welsh, but
It's vaguely like a
Best
mix
thing you
of.
could ever tell.
In all fairness, it's vaguely a mix of the Highlands
yeah.
and Wales. It's a very good mix of Wales and the Highlands, though.
You just got to do Welsh more sing-songy, and I just didn't do it that time. I haven't done his voice in so long.
So when will he randomly break out into singing Men of Harlech?
Oh no, they don't break out into song. I mean, Avik never does.
The Welsh
Which is
accent
a
just
waste
has
of
a singy-songy.
potential, really.
Yeah, and when you get into speaking Gaelic, it's definitely singy-songy.
Oh well, breakfast will be downstairs when you're ready, and you can just come by and you can get yourselves a drink. Something like that. I still feel that was more Scottish anyway. But as you go downstairs, you would note that, actually, I should stop being a bad GM and actually get rid of some characters. There are very few humans in the bar. It appears to be mainly dwarves. The members of the Bloody Rain have all got in a room somewhere else, are still asleep. Yeah, not quite sure. You haven't seen Damatus in a short time. You might have heard him at one point, but who knows. Bill returns without his dog. Yeah, they'd be sat down here. And as you all gather about, Hagrid, in a quiet-ish tone, he's not being super secretive, but he is trying to maybe not cause a fright or a panic. You don't see all the dwarves who were at Hagrid's. Actually, only Azureth and Miss Wilhelma would notice. You don't see all the dwarves, but there are.
Am I back up again already?
Yeah, this is the next day. No one seemed to want to do anything.
Okay, in that case, next day I'm like, hey, I'm sorry about yesterday, and I kind of reacted.
Hey, we're drunk. That happens.
Not so much drunk, but I hadn't slept in 36 hours.
You elves don't really sleep a lot, do you?
This was more with the battle thing,
Dad,
being on edge the entire time.
just don't mention it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Actually, there probably are most of the dwarf. No, I think a few of them are missing. I can't remember how many. I've got their names written down. That's why I've got all their numbers. But you'd notice that it's pretty much just your warband, the dwarves. Bill and Ted are there. You'd notice that Bill, he may have left his dog outside, but his homing pigeon is sat on his shoulder. You notice that as he's turning around and tucking into his breakfast, it shits down his shoulder, down his back. You see it run down. As Hagrid kind of gathers you all up, I'm sorry it's so early, but well, we were talking long into the night, and well, this is what we've got. This is what we've got so far. And he rolls out a map, and he places it on the table. As you all gather round, you notice the name on the map. Hey, this is the map of Mordheim. That, well, this is what we've gathered from all the people that we've talked to. Roughly where the crater hit and where things were destroyed and so on and so forth.
And where is the place we were trying to get to?
Well, we're going to retake the Black Pit settlement. It was the first. Well, we'd call it an outpost. It's essentially, so when you build a city, you don't want to build a city and then build. You have an outpost first, where your labourers and your people stay, and well, that's what the Black Pit settlement was. It was just a fort, a place to store things, to protect the people and such. Well, after the calamity, obviously everything in that area fell to shit. But when me and he kind of goes, his face goes a bit gaunt, and you can definitely see he becomes more dour for a moment. When the last warband went in, we reclaimed the Black Pit. We repaired the walls. We made it our outpost. That way, if we got hurt or if we found something that we needed to bring back straight away, we didn't have to march for a week to get back to Siegfriedhoft.
Ah, so we're establishing a base camp.
Aye, that's it.
Sounds reasonable.
Well, that's
Now,
the start anyway.
how costly will be this venture? I'm not going to back out. I gave my word, but I just want to know how much we need to scrounge up.
One of the other dwarfs chimes in. He has large gold medallions in his beard, and all his hair is braided, again with, it appears, gold wire braided into his hair. Aye, well, you'll be needing stone, I doubt. How long's it been, Agrin? It's been about. What I say, about 30 years, 20 years, 25, something like that. It's all a bit of a haze. And we've been so close to Mordheim. Who knows what's happened to the walls and the defences? Aye, so you'll be needing a lot of stone then. And I guess you'll be needing labourers and fighters and craftsmen. I mean, we can do some of the work, but Agrin, we're not paying in and then doing everything ourselves, you know. I know, Stone Cousin, I know. I won't ask for payment from you, but I will ask for your sweat and brawn. However, for you four, you're all gonna have to chip in with me. But for that, I can guarantee you'll have the best arms and equipment you could ever hope to or imagine, but it may take time. It's an investment. He kind of has a more pitiful look about him. Well, Agrin, okay, so... Well, if... I'll tell you what, Agrin, we'll pay for ourselves, and we'll supply as much mineral wealth as the Dowie can spare. But you'll have to take care of your highlands, and he gestures to your group and to them. But I thank you, Stone Cousins. He turns to your whole group. If we're just paying for the highlands and for skilled personnel, we'll need livestock and feed and rations to get us through the worst of it. We won't have nowhere to cook until we've cleared out the fort and made it safe again. You're looking at about 1,400 gold, 1,433 to be precise.
Wilhelm just whistles.
That's a lot.
That is a lot of coin.
Then again, if we manage to get that together, we can get bloody enchantment weapons, and I think that's fucking worth it. That, and we swore on it.
Aye, that's the second part. The more important part.
Well, it's the highlands that really take up the cost here. We need some peasants, we need some labourers. We gotta have mercenaries, otherwise we're not going to be able to keep watch.
Oh, see something?
Sure.
This is the money you've already taken out of our purses, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, Azurif, I've taken the 50 gold for your 5 months stay in Siegfriedhof. So you're all sorted.
Wait, didn't I already pay that previously?
No, that was from today's session. So your gold and everything is up to scratch.
All right.
Hey, but once we actually get into the black pit, once we get situated, once we can do raids into Mordheim, we can easily pay off our costs and then some. There's a lot of valuables in there, and we can't just storm through. We need to clear out paths and know that sections of the town are somewhat secure for us to venture through.
Alright. That's good. Anyway, after we settled on this Akron, I need to talk to you about something.
Aye, but of course, whatever you need. Essentially, the rest of the dwarves are going to be talking. If any members of the party do, along with Wilhelm's, the Dowie will start telling you about how much it costs to get mining goods and how much it costs to build walls and fortify. Hagrin will gesture to Azurif, and he'll step away from the rest of the group. Hey, Azurif, what do you want to talk about?
First of all, if we're going in there, you see that I'm still missing some plated leggings and plated arm gear, apart from this chain stuff I've got going. If we're going to Mordheim, I'm gonna need to be fully kitted out, so I'd like to buy that. And also, I know there isn't really any like real cave system around here, but I'd like to become a shield breaker.
Well, the armor, of course, I can. As soon as you're ready to get fitted out, then come on by. You're always welcome. As for becoming a shield breaker, I'm honoured that you'd want to take that route. He gestures at some of the other dwarfs who are currently in debate with other people, Bill and Ted. You would notice that in a couple of hours and the few hours that you were with Ted yesterday, he doesn't seem to be farting. Oh well. He gestures to a couple of the Dowie. Aye, well, those two there, they're shield breakers. And well, the one over there, well, he's a sergeant from. He came out of the Dowie forces. But they can. They'll be happy to show you what they know, and of course, I can give you any tips. I mean, I was never a shield breaker myself, Azorif.
Yeah, I also know that. Technically, the official test is that I just need to make it out of a cave system they dumped me in, but...
Well, to be honest with you, that's all well and good for those who are living in a crack, and who have access to the underways, but
I mean, we could always say that cave with that giant spire we went in, murdered, and then came out again can't.
That would count. I mean, to be honest with you, the tactics that the shield breakers use, it works well in Mordheim, especially in the smaller back streets where the houses they built them so tall, but hungy buildings. They've got no foundations, nothing to keep them up. So
small cramped alleyways. With little lighting.
And the ancestors protect us. If we go in the sewers, well, that's worse than being in the underway. So you definitely earn your chops from either experience.
All right.
But we'll talk to my fellow Dowie when you're having your armor fitted, and I'm sure they'll be happy to tell you what they know, any tricks of the trade, and so on and so forth.
All right. Thank you.
As you turn back to the group, Hagrid appears to be filling a pipe, lighting it off of the fire in the Wolf's Head Inn. And the conversation goes on for quite some time. You're almost a little bewildered in a way at how the dwarves... This was meant to be a done deal, but even now, let's see, Dimzid is quite happy where he is. Gudrun, one of the shield breakers, he apparently seems to think that it'd be better if they built their own fort somewhere to the west on the other side of the river. And then Kargan is saying that no, they should go further up to the eastern entrance and build some fort there. And the dwarves appear to be arguing, kind of quarrelling. This definitely doesn't seem like they're set on their plan.
As long as there's insults involved, it's all good.
There are very few insults at this moment in time. Everyone does seem to be containing themselves. And it's at this point where there's going to be a massive time skip. You may all choose to do actions during your time, But 5 months pass as more plans are brought forward, more meetings, more discussions. Some of you get quite sick and just don't bother appearing anymore, feeling that you're set on your plan, and why do you need to know if you need 562 stone bricks or 563 stone bricks? But the dwarves seem persistent in arguing about the importance of this.
The exact number of bricks they need instead of just ordering too many.
In these 5 months, there are festivals that will be going on. There are celebrations. For some of you, you'll have a religious festival. For others, a spiritual affair will come along. 50 gold crowns have been spent in your 5 months. You don't seem to have anything to show for these 5 months except from knowledge and a greater understanding. So, let us start off with Miss Wilhelma. Is there anything that you would like to study or anything that you would like to do?
Well, Wilhelma would definitely be spending a lot of time with Dimzid, as he would be schooling her into the ways, first studently ways and then proper engineering ways.
Sure.
So essentially, he would be passing some of the more academic knowledge, and Wilhelma would definitely seek out books on gunsmith, on engineering and chemistry,
Sure.
with the intent of making gunpowder herself eventually.
So over your 5 months, you learn the secrets to gunpowder. You were told the precise measurements for the dwarven standard. Over time, and perhaps you don't speak dwarven, so you'd have to get a human. You'd have to get a human book on engineering. So you might notice that in the human book of engineering that you were able to acquire at the general store, that the measurements aren't the same. They're actually completely different. They have the same components, but the exact measurements are different. The dwarves are far more precise, for one. Dimzid would actually probably make some of the measuring cups for you, rather than Did you buy your engineering tools?
I did. I actually have the engineer's kit.
So I tell you what, you can have a dwarven engineering's kit. Dimzid and Thorin, I think it's Thorin, over the 5 months of your study, use Hagrid's Forge to create a dwarven set. So you can put, if you want, dwarven on there.
Very much so.
It's more accurate, essentially. All the measuring cups actually have calculated measurements on them, like you might find in our modern day. Whereas you might notice that the human equivalent is just a beaker.
Alright, so I'm getting told how to do it properly. It's good. Very good.
Yeah, it appears as if dwarven engineers aren't quite as secretive as runesmiths, as engineers are oddballs in dwarf society. They're not really as trusted. Some of the older, the Longbeards, kind of give them shit because they're not going with the tried and trusty catapult. They trust this black powder shit, and it's only been around for a few hundred years. Not tried and tested.
You gotta go with the times.
They make all the weird shit, like a black powder powered catapult.
You get.
Like, it's only weird until it's proven to be superior. Okay.
You would probably get informed that dwarves have helicopters. You know this now. They are quite happy. They're quite pleased. They wouldn't tell you how to make one, not yet, but they would feed the ideas into your head that they've developed steam-powered craft that.
It's working.
Miss Gabrielle, is there anything you would like to do over your 5 months?
Pray to Ronald. Find out how much all the jewels and stuff cost, because I'm aware we're gonna have to build up capital. Even though, I think Gabrielle's probably subconsciously blanked where they're going. It's my excuse for because I wasn't there for half the conversation, and I assume Gabrielle was taken to the conversation.
It was in the Wolf's Head Inn. You were all woken up, had breakfast, and discussed with the dwarves.
So they probably mentioned at some point. They probably mentioned they were going to Mordheim, and she's just blanked it because you guys are crazy. Blanked. But yeah, it'd be figuring out how much all the gems cost, because we're going to need capital.
Sure.
And selling them is one good way to get capital.
Sure. We'll say, with all the other little bits that you do, and to give it a number, you can roll 3 times a month. Yeah, that seems about right.
Fortune. That's the first month done. Three down.
So that's 5 degrees of success. I will give you, each degree will be 1 item. Obviously, if you have 2 of the same item, you can basically go, well, that's going to be that much. Any items that after the 5 months, any items that you haven't got successes on, you'll have a rough idea about what they are, but you didn't get them exact, if that makes sense.
Just doing maths because I think we got 5 gems and some earrings, and that's the only stuff I have. A ring and a neck. Actually, yeah, it's like 8, 9 things. But yeah, I've rolled. Was it 3 times for every month?
Yeah.
That's a lot of rolls. Let's keep rolling. Just counting up degrees again so far, because I'm going to measure against the items.
You're either on 8 or 9 degrees of success. Sorry, that Irish music did not work, as I'm going to get rid of that. Delete. Go away.
Yeah, there's 9 items and a candle.
The candle's already been identified. Lysiara did that last time.
Okay, then I'm taking out the cart because it's still in there.
It's still there? It should be.
Yeah, it's just this candle.
Already. Sorry.
It's been left in the
already
treasure.
with me. Yeah,
So
that's
just
my
took it
bad.
out. But yeah, I had 9 unidentified items. I can roll again to try and guarantee the 9.
Sure. You're still only in your into the 2nd month, part of the 3rd. Yeah. So yeah, you can say that you've identified all the items over, I believe it was 2 months, maybe 2 months and a bit.
It's probably just a little over 2 months because I've been fortuning a couple of them along the way.
Yeah, that's...
I wasn't gonna do the stupid cheese of I can fortune infinitely.
That's where I kind of got. I was like, he has fortuned some of these, so some of these I'm not. I think it's about 2 and a bit months. So yeah, you would have the prices for all of your items. I believe all the items should be in the choral book, but I will have a look
check.
I'll have a look in the armory, and I will go to the jewel page. is there anything else? Was there anything that you wanted to research or you wanted to look into, or an NPC that you wanted to persuade to come with you?
I bought more clothes. I bought more carrying stuff, and I'm gonna start learning to butcher the arcane language as an excuse for how I suddenly get it later.
Okay then, so perhaps you go to, perhaps, not having a proper temple or a proper priest that you can go to, you venture off and you look for Magos, the priest of Mor, and you have a word with him. He's not going to be angry because you're following a different god. At the end of the day, everyone chooses their own god. The Empire is fairly forgiving as long as you're not choosing a dark one. It's
Yeah, I might be looked down on by the nobles for my god, but that's the nobles, and they don't like a god that helps the commoners.
yeah. Whereas Magos has definitely come from low-born stock and has risen through the ranks to his position. And he needs to speak arcane languages to perform his prayers, so he would be more than happy to take you through some of the steps and some of the pronunciation kind of classes that you would start doing as a...
At times, Litiao will probably hear a similar but not exactly the same dialect that's butchered of magic.
So it's actually two different. So when a priest speaks arcane words to perform miracles, they are completely different sounding, and they are two different languages completely. That otherwise, because although it's all winds of magic, humans have got it into their heads that divine magic is not winds. There's no chaos. It's all pure and holy and good. So they are.
Yeah,
it's just not written that way. But fluff-wise,
in the Tome of Salvation, it is every priest can understand each other's dialect with a -20 test. Because it's like, we all speak the same language, we just use the words differently.
oh, okay. So a priest of Renowned and a priest of Mor. Yeah, sorry, I misunderstood.
And then it's like, Licia again uses completely different words and sentence structure for magic.
Yes.
So she hears a butchering of a butchering.
So Lyciara's, you wouldn't. It's two different languages completely. Whereas within the priestly order, there are real similarities, and you can. It's like two languages that have grown up next to each other. How they both share similarities versus Japanese, which is so alien and so different. But for some reason, the book doesn't say Holy Arcana, which it really should, or Divine Arcana.
I think you're basically making prayers while you're doing the speaking arcane magic language. So every priest would be basically like a German trying to understand the Dutch. So there are a few similarities, but if you try to go to the arcane magical language, it's probably like German and Japanese.
I was gonna say it's
especially since Luciara is now mostly using arcane elven.
Yeah, the actual magic, it's not quite like that. It's for understanding it's a bit like language thinking in Dutch, but then it's like also on top of that, trying to speak ye olde English to a person who speaks Dutch. In terms of the set degrees of separation, I specify ye olde English because I've just looked it up, and in the Tome of Salvation, they speak what was originally the same language. It's just the cult one's so much older and more confusing that nobody really understands where it started.
But by all means, you can essentially dip your toes into the pronunciations and the sentence structures of the divine. And if you don't tell Magus which god you're following, then he will essentially teach you, the pig Latin version, the rough. If you tell him which god you choose to follow, then he'll try and make more of an effort to. Well, I've spoke to a god of renown before on the battlefield, as favour on the battlefield is quite common. He can probably help you a little bit along the way, but it's a good start to your learning.
I learn the pig Latin, and then when I get my magic priest book, I finally figure out the renowned specifics.
Yeah, and you have an idea of how. Oh, so it's not, how it's written isn't how it's pronounced. That's the one the Mago said, where it's like ooh ah wah instead of ah wah wah, or some nonsense.
Magic is messed.
It certainly is. It's a messy old affair. So that is what you spend your time doing, Miss Gabrielle. Mr. Azurif, you go and get your armor set from Hagrin.
Yep. That's gonna cost me 130 gold.
Whilst you're there, you are introduced to the shield breakers and the sergeant properly. You were taken over, like the positions and how you should stand and how far your feet should be apart. And they do mention that because you're so tall, you haven't got the right centre of gravity. So they suggest to you to hunch down a little bit, to bend your knees more, and to stick your ass out and to brace more. It's a different style than what you're used to, but it does work, although you are still quite a lot taller when they try and do a shield wall.
Solution: get larger shield.
But by all means, was there anything else you wanted to do in that time, or were you just quite happy hanging out with the dwarves and getting your armour sorted?
I'm okay with it, so...
Okay, so then, the one who has the most to do.
It's gonna be a lot.
I may have got some of the numbers wrong. Is that uncut or okay? No, that's uncut. Okay. So Miss Lysiara, the one who has much to do. Where would you like to start off?
Let's start with the familiar.
Okay. So I believe that animal isn't rare. I believe it's normally scarce. However, where you are, there are a considerable number of them.
This year wants one because somehow she feels like it's connected to her destiny, so she's going for a raven.
Sure. You find a raven. Funnily enough, you overhear the guy who's selling the animals talking about an absolute deal that he finally got rid of that stinking mutt. But he has many different animals outside his stall.
Okay. I forgot what I have to roll.
You can get a raven. This is Siegfriedhof, the Temple of Moor, the biggest temple in Stirling. Well, in the Empire is here, and they do like their ravens. So
I do have to roll a 1d10 weeks for how long it's going to take. So 5 weeks until he becomes fully my familiar. Also, let me check. think that's it. Unless you want me to roll for the familiar oddities, quirks, and personality. And
There is some of that you will have to roll for eventually. Do you need another character sheet to add your Raven onto?
Sure, I would like that because familiars also get their
Well,
their buffs that they give to the mages. So
technically you have got a Raven. The Raven does have stats. It does have certain abilities, like for spotting and things. I believe you can, if you trained it, you could have it deliver messages and things like that. So it does have a stat bar in the Old World Bestiary, or possibly the Old World Armory. I will have a look at one point.
I have a familiar Robin or small bird statistics in the realms of sorcery, which I can use. But
I would actually use the Raven, because there is one for a Raven in, I believe it's the Old World Armory, because it's a larger bird, and they did specifically mention the Raven, so it's got all of its like perception, what bonuses it has to perception and things like that.
Gotcha. The other one, which is both research, bullet research, I have already written all I want about it. The other one I haven't, and I counted up the amount of successes the bonuses I can get from my skills and stats, and I think it's up to 21. But I need you to check and see if that is A, correct, and B, if you like this spell, or you want to give me negatives and stuff like that. Page 173. Let me check. Yeah, page 173.
Okay, let me just bring up your character sheet, and I shall goosey gander it and see how it looks. And is that the bottom one or the second from bottom?
Second one.
Yep, no, that sounds perfectly fine to me. I think you've done that quite fairly there.
Okay, I will then roll a D100 for the research results after 1 month.
I would probably only add that at the very worst, is that it informs the target that something's happened. Like they feel something.
Gotcha.
So if they're magically attuned, they might know what that feeling is. If they're not, it's like someone stepped over their grave, something like that.
They live in the ass end of nowhere. Somebody cast a spell on me because superstitions are really high. But they think that whenever somebody drops a rock by their feet.
Would it really be that bad?
Yeah, rituals can be quite bad. Some rituals can even cause death if you fail.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
Oh, right, your sister. Which I don't know about in character.
ooh.
Rituals can also blow up fortresses.
Okay, so with my current role, according to the research results,
Oh, we
somewhat
can't
work.
see it.
You uncover no changes. Okay, so my ritual is complete.
Yeah, yeah. You were very lucky there with your role, and nothing
am-
bad happened. It's disastrous.
It's a miracle.
It kind of is. You guys have no idea.
Oh, I pulled the table up because I was interested in how research works, and I'm just looking at this like, what the hell?
Yeah. As for the second one, if you don't mind coming back later, maybe at the end of the session,
Sure.
I can roll that too. But because this is a more involved research.
Sure. No,
So-
that's perfectly fine.
Cool.
I think I have written down all the items that needed prices. I think the copper amulet in there is the one that you identified last time, Gabrielle. The
The necklace made. Oh yeah, that might. Yeah, I'll take that one off then. So it's only 8.
because as an actual piece of loot, it's pathetic because it's just a copper necklace. So I'm like, hang on, that's got to be the one which, well, they don't have copper necklaces, so it's got bronze is the only one you can get. So that's got to be the magical item that you guys got.
Yeah, I didn't realise that it was supposed to be the other thing.
No, that's fine. That's just I was just looking at it, going, hang on, there's no copper. There's
That
only
drops.
bronze. Okay, so that must have been the magical one.
Yes, that dropped the degrees needed to 8. Extra roll is just an extra roll.
I just need to turn my light on quick. I'll be 1 sec. There we go. Right. So, Miss Lyciara, in these 5 months, is there anyone that you would like to try and talk to with your fleeting minutes of spare time between your research?
Luciara mostly spent most of her time doing research. Every moment she has to spare will be spent either doing more research in Balthazar's library and basically just, talking to Balthazar. And maybe, I don't know, wandering around and communing with the forest just outside with the city. But other than that, no, she's mostly just, she has her head deep within her work.
Okay, so as you spend your time in the Wolf's Head Inn, studying, looking at books, and doing your research, you would note that from time to time a small songbird comes to your window, and you've seen this songbird before, and you recognise the voice that comes forth from it. It's Belisarius. He checks in with you after he finds out that you're doing research. He realises why he can sense you, but he hasn't seen you in a few days or so after the celebrations. You're able to communicate through his familiar quite easily without having to break from your research, and at times you have even been able to mention about needing a book or wondering a certain phrase, and he's been able to lend a helpful hand. So in your very few at this moment moments of free time, you do have yourself the small luxury of being able to wander through the woods. At this time it is winter, and as the months go on, you notice through your brief stays in the forest that the seasons change, the coldness in the air disappears, and a new life comes back to the surrounding wildlife. And before too long, 5 months has passed.
Cool.
You all prepare yourselves as the dwarves seem to stop bickering. Azurath is probably the one who is most fed up of hearing the constant going over the plan and the re-preparing and preparing, as he spends quite a large amount of time with the dwarves. And it is time. Hagrid informs all of you that finally all the supplies have been provisioned, all the hirelings paid up. On the 1st of Sigmarzit, your journey will begin.
Now let's do all the complicated and annoying maths to get the money together to actually say we paid for it.
Wait,
I thought we already paid for it.
we already paid for everything.
Oh, then we got a ton of shit to sell.
No, you mean for some of the stuff. Yeah.
So essentially, to save you guys from, you can just sell off the items. You don't need to role play it.
I was just gonna be like, yeah, this much and this much and this much, and get all the maths out of the way.
Yeah, no.
'Cause-
So I've given you the valuables have got numbers to them now. So if you want to add them up, add it to your cart, and then get rid of the items. That's perfectly fine. All your spare weapons that you want.
What's that?
It should be at the bottom of the cart where the list of. Did it not say?
Oh yeah, I see now. Yeah, I see. I didn't notice it. I was thinking, what? I thought it was like a table. No, you've actually put it in there. And then there's the necklace made of silver with a gemstone.
And if you don't need to spend anything right this second to buy anything, that can be done at the end of the session, where you add up how many hand weapons you have, for example, and you can sell off a load. Like your poor crossbows, I don't think you need anymore, so we can clear them out.
Just thought it would have been, this is where we're ending.
We'll end the session once you get to the next map. You set off on the 1st, and you get back onto the familiar boat that took you up to the woodcutters' camp. It loads on 2 carts, your own, not among them these numbers. So Hagrid has brought 2 carts for himself. Plus yours makes 3. The hirelings all placed on along with the dwarves and yourselves. You travel for 3 days upriver, making good time. But before you come to the fork in the river, the boat sets down on the other side of the river than last time, at a rotten, haggard-looking jetty. You question its stability, but there is nowhere else for you to get off. The dwarves quickly lay out some new boards that start on the ship and reach to the other side. The carts are driven off. The horses and animals begin getting uneasy. You can, Azurath, Lysiara especially, and Bill, notice that they're whinnying more. They seem uneasy. They stamp their feet slightly, but nothing seems to happen.
I just remembered I should have talked to someone before we left.
Too late.
As you carry on, the uneasy feeling doesn't go away. You all now start to feel it as you see a structure in the distance. 3 days on the water and 2 days on foot. Part of the road is almost gone. You're not quite sure what happened here, if it was a battle, if it was an army, but it's just almost a muddy field now. Fortunately though, the mud is drying. It's difficult going, but it doesn't stop you for too long. after your 5 days of travelling, you come to the outskirts of the Black Pit settlement. You can see Mordheim in the distance. The ominous feeling surrounding it is almost visible. It almost looks as if it's clouds, dark clouds that seem to just hang over the city itself. And you all get butterflies in your stomach and knots, but you push on. Halfway through the 6th day, you reach the settlement of the Black Pit, and the dwarves move the hirelings to the back. The peasants essentially are moved to the back. I think it's that map. The mercenaries are positioned to protect the carts, and your party and the dwarves are brought forwards. Aye, that be it, lads. Prepare yourselves. This is going to be not enjoyable in the least. As you are all faced with the battered stone walls of the settlement. And that is where we will leave it off for this episode, as the next time you will be clearing out the Black Pit settlement and finding your new base. So I hope you've all enjoyed this episode and are looking forward to the next one, where our group of explorers and adventurers will be clearing out a long abandoned fort. I'm sure there won't be anything too nasty waiting for them inside. Until then, take care everyone, and as always, bye bye for now.
Good night.